Hello, I'm Michael Buerk. Welcome to a brand new series of royal recipes. This time, we're at Westonbirt House, formerly a grand country house, now a boarding school, which has played host to royal visitors for over 100 years. In this series, we're delving even further back in time to reveal over 600 years of royal food heritage. You play Anne Boleyn, and I will play Henry VIII.
And we've been busy unlocking the secrets of Britain's great food archives, discovering rare and unseen recipes that have been royal favourites through the ages. From the earliest royal cookbook in 1390...
It's so precious, so special that I'm not allowed to touch it.
...to Tudor treats from the court of Henry VIII.
I can't wait for this. 1, 2, 3.
We'll be exploring the great culinary traditions enjoyed by the royal family, from the grand to the groundbreaking, as well as the surprisingly simple.
I did think that was going to be a disaster.
As we hear from a host of royal chefs.
Prince Philip would walk past or pop his head in and say, "What's for dinner? What are we having?" Oh, yeah, it's not just a normal kitchen.
And meet the people who provide for the royal table.
It's OK for the Queen, it's OK for everyone.
Welcome to Royal Recipes.
There's nothing quite like a royal event for sheer scale and grandeur. Whether it's a royal wedding, a jubilee, or even just a party, the royals know how to do it in style. And the food enjoyed at these great occasions is designed to impress.
So we're rolling out the red carpet and sparing no expense. Today on Royal Recipes...
You might have to duck.
Oh!
Chef Anna Haugh creates a culinary masterpiece.
That looks amazing.
Oh, look at that.
Dr. Annie Gray is shown a precious antique with a peculiar royal claim to fame.
This is the oldest silver chamber pot in the country.
It's incredible.
And Chef Rob Kennedy remembers catering for a right royal occasion.
To me, perfect recipe, fit for a king.
With me in the Royal Recipes kitchen is Executive Chef Anna Haugh, and we're starting off in style today. Unless I'm very much mistaken, this is a bottle of champagne. Very thoughtful of you.
Michael, that's not for you, that's for the fish.
Ah, so what are you cooking?
I'm going to cook salmon in champagne today.
That sounds really good. Now, this is a real royal recipe from the 17th century, from the legendary chef Patrick Lamb, who was master chef to 4 monarchs in the 17th and 18th centuries. And this is one of his dishes. So how does it work?
Well, actually, you can open it as long as you promise not to drink all of it. So I'm going to start our poaching liquid. I have some shellfish stock here.
OK. Woo. You might have to duck. Ready?
Yes.
Oh!
Oh, my God!
Quick. It takes years of practice to be able to do this, you know.
OK, well, I'm going to use about half a bottle of champagne, which is quite a lot.
It certainly is.
I'm just going to add some bay leaf, some peppercorn, and some sliced shallot.
This is the recipe that Patrick Lamb did for Charles II, the merry monarch in the middle of the 17th century.
He would be merry if he was...
If he had lots of champagne.
Yeah, lots of champagne.
He was quite a character, Patrick Lamb, actually. He was master chef for nearly 50 years.
Wow.
He published this book in 1710, and this recipe is actually in it, in the book Royal Cookery, or The Complete Court Cook, containing the choicest receipts in all the particular branches of cookery now in use in the Queen's palaces. So there it is.
So I'm just seasoning our salmon now, and I'm going to place it into the
That is
tray.
a lovely, lovely piece of salmon.
Beautiful piece of salmon. So our liquid's coming up to boil now, so I'm just going to pour some of the liquid on top of the fish so that it cooks nice and evenly.
It's a real luxury dish, this, isn't it? I mean,
It
that
is.
wonderful salmon, the champagne and so on. I suppose you've got to see it in the context of the time, haven't you? I mean, there's Charles II, we've had the Civil War, his father's head was chopped off, and Puritanism and that idea of excess and luxury and self-indulgence was banned. It was a very stern and a strict time. And then you have the restoration of the monarchy, Charles II comes back, and all of a sudden luxury and pleasure and everything are fashionable again. And that's the sort of historical context within which this dish was created. If you're actually saying salmon in champagne, you're hitting two buttons at the same time.
Well, it's funny you should say that, Michael. I'm also going to add caviar to it, just to add a little bit more luxury to it. I'm just going to chop a little bit of dill, which I think has got a fabulous flavour to go with salmon.
Round about the time that this wonderful dish was being created by Patrick Lamb for Charles II, you know, an awful lot was going on at that time. The court was back, luxury was back, but there were still, you know, big tragedies and hardships going on. The Great Fire of London was the same decade, the plague, all that kind of stuff. So, you know, some people had it good and some people had it really bad. Now, what are you going to do?
I'm going to lift.
You're going to get it out?
Yes. I'm going to lift
now,
the
this is
salmon out of here.
This is a bit of a dangerous time, isn't
Yes, this is a bit of a dangerous time.
it? You're trying to get it out in one piece.
In one piece. So that's.
Done, Anna. Well done, well done, well done. Look at that.
Yes. Oh, you'd swear I did this for a living. Okay, perfect, wonderful.
Wow.
Oh, I'm delighted with that now. That's
Doesn't
great.
that look utterly splendid?
So now I'm
Now
going
what
to
you gonna
make the sauce from the liquid that we poached it in.
All that champagne
All that champagne will not go to waste. And just grab a tea towel.
with flavours of shellfish, with all those lovely things you stuck in.
If you wouldn't mind, Michael, just to remove the shallots off the fish there
Oh,
for me,
okay.
please.
Yep. Do I need to save them for eating or just get rid of them totally?
I think just put them on the side, yeah.
Okay. Patrick Lamb was even more of a celebrity chef than you, Anna, I think, if that is possible. I mean, 3 coronation feasts he was responsible for, and the one for William and Mary in 1689. The feast cost the equivalent these days of £1 million, which is amazing. But get this, he himself was paid for that one meal by the royals £100. It doesn't sound much now.
Doesn't sound much.
£20,000
For one meal?
For one meal. Do you know that's even more than you get?
That's a lot more than I get.
Come on, what's happening over here?
Okay, so
Lots of sizzle.
just bringing up the cooking liquid to the boil. I'm
Yep.
going to add the cream to it.
Right.
So this needs a pinch of salt.
Yeah.
Just a little pinch of salt in there. I'm going to give it another,
Little whisk round.
yeah. So I'm just going to whisk in some butter.
Oh, it's not rich enough, eh?
It's not rich enough. If you whisk in the butter too soon, it will split.
You do all these things gradually, don't you?
Gradually, slowly,
You
slowly.
don't sort of slosh around.
Okay, it looks like our butter's all whisked in there now. So now we're going to add in our caviar.
At the last minute. Might be some left.
Some dill. Might be some left to have with a glass of champagne afterwards.
Absolutely. Oh, yes, talking of which, have we got any glasses? Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay. So I'm going to dress this now with some
The glasses
beautiful
there.
watercress, a little bit of pea shoots. So I'm just going to put a little bit of olive oil on these.
So how are you going to put the sauce on?
I'm going to pour it into a jug first. So I'm going to just pour it over the top
Right
of
over the top.
fish.
Oh, look at that.
And then I'm going to finish it now
Yep.
with some lemon zest.
Zest of lemon.
And what goes so well with this is just some lovely crusty bread. And if you like a little bit of mayonnaise before you break your salmon, put it on the bread.
Mayonnaise as well. And of course, what we desperately need with this is champagne.
Would you like to pour?
I would like to. Well, I'd like to drink it. I don't know about pour it. Here we go. Observe the fine technique.
I think you've done this before, Michael.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers.
Right. Come on,
Right.
let's have a go.
Onto the
Are
bread.
you going to put it onto the bread?
Yeah.
Okay. There we go. Oh, it's lovely, isn't it? You cook the salmon beautifully. The sauce is great. Salmon in champagne, fit for the merry monarch himself.
A luxurious royal recipe, and just the thing for a regal banquet.
And no royal occasion is complete without liberal quantities of booze. One of Britain's oldest purveyors of wines and spirits has been supplying the royal family since the beginning of the last century.
Wine expert Joe Fattorini went to the centre of Mayfair to uncork the story.
Berry Brothers and Rudd has an illustrious history stretching back over 315 years, based here at 3 St James's Street, opposite St James's Palace in the fashionable heart of London. You could say from the outset it's always had a royal connection.
Being neighbours with the reigning monarch was a good start for the business. Simon Berry is the 8th generation of his family to work at this supplier of fine wines. But it hasn't always sold wine.
The business itself started in 1698, founded by a lady called the Widow Bourne. We don't know anything else about her. We don't even know her Christian name. And she decided to open a shop basically selling groceries, specialising quite soon in tea and coffee, the most expensive drinks of their day. Our most expensive tea cost £10 for a pound of tea, and this was at a time when the average wage was £15 a year. So that makes some of these bottles look marvellously cheap in comparison.
It was the Widow Bourne's daughter who first sold goods to royalty.
43 Cheval Blanc.
George III bought their coffee during the 1700s. Later that century, they began to specialise in wine.
That's really good stuff, and very expensive.
By the 1900s, they were supplying a different king with booze.
In 1903, King Edward VII bought himself a horseless carriage, which was a Daimler. And it was an open car, like all cars were in those days. 1903 was a very cold winter, and his doctor was very concerned that His Majesty might contract a bit of pneumonia. So he came to us and said, could you produce a warming cordial that His Majesty can drink as he is driving the car? And incidentally, you'd better make it nice and strong. And for 30 years, we only sold it to the royal family. You couldn't buy it from us unless you were royal.
It's got a lovely sort of gingery afterglow,
Oh, yes.
but it is good and strong, isn't it?
But nowadays, you can't really say, why don't you have a bottle in your glove compartment when you're driving along the M4? I'm not sure that would go down that very well.
It is how times have moved on. Does this still get sold to the royal household today?
I'm trying not to tell you that, but yes, it does.
The company has held a plethora of royal warrants. Simon sells wine to both the Queen and Prince Charles.
Ask away.
But he has another rather special role. He's the official clerk of the royal cellars.
I run a committee who every so often meet to taste the wines that will be served at Buckingham Palace or Sandringham or Balmoral, which is a nice thing to do.
And how do you come across a role like this? It's not something that you see advertised in the back of the metro.
The reason why I was appointed is because I'm unbelievably discreet.
Today, Simon helps select the wine for the royal household. But back in the 1920s, his shop stocked the cellar of a far smaller regal home.
Now then, Simon, what is this?
Well, this is probably the most royal collection of bottles that we have. These are the bottles that were created for Queen Mary's doll's house, which is this amazing doll's house. It was something that was designed by Sir Edwin Lutyens, the most famous architect of his day. There's running water, there's electric light, and there is this cellar of wine. And we were commissioned to produce these bottles, and whatever it says on the label, the bottles contain.
There are some of your own labels.
There's a cognac here, there is some sherry.
You know my favourite thing in this? There's the record book, and it has received and then consumed. Yes. And there are items that have been consumed.
Well, you know, $30.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I love it. I love it. So, should you or I ever be invited to a royal celebration, you'll know that you're in very safe hands.
Talking of wine, in 1972, the story goes that the Queen hosted a dinner for the French president at the time, Georges Pompidou, and she wanted English wine. So they ordered some English wine to be sent to France, to the Paris embassy, where it was all taking place. But it was impounded. The English wine was impounded by French customs. And when the French customs officer was asked why afterwards, he said, "It says here, English wine. There is no such thing." Do you like English wine?
Yes, especially sparkling English wine, I think, is really fantastic.
There's a lot of politics, isn't there, when the royal family put on a banquet or something. That's politics and etiquette. Were you taught etiquette at chef's school? You know,
yes.
How to set the table and all that?
We did like a couple of weeks of training, but really that's more for the front of house. Our main focus was really on cooking and shouting.
No, I think it's quite easy. I've got a list here from, you know, the Bible of etiquette, which is Debrett's. You know, utensils placed in the order of use from the outside in, obviously forks on the left, knives on the right, tumbler for the water, a different glass for white and red wine, bigger for the red. Why is that?
I think to allow the wine to breathe so you can get the bouquet.
But at the big royal occasions, all those courses, different wine for each course, it's amazing. People still in a condition to walk out at the end of it.
I'm sure a few of them weren't in any good condition to be walking out.
It's not known whether one royal occasion in particular left guests the worse for wine. But the dinner has gone down in history as an especially pomp-filled event. Back in 1850, Prince Albert attended an extraordinary banquet that was held in his honour in the city of York. Annie Gray tells us more.
Putting on a dinner for a prince means you've really got to impress. Everything from the decor to the people to the food itself has got to scream effort.
The grand feast was hosted at the Guildhall in Mansion House, home to the burghers of York since the 1700s. Richard Pollitt is the curator there.
Richard, paint a picture for me of what it would have looked like when Prince Albert walked into this room.
Well, if you can imagine, this entire hall would be decked by tables with beautiful white damask cloth. He would have passed city maces hanging from the columns and a massive ornamental vase where the stained glass window is today.
So it sounds like a really big occasion. How many people came?
Well, there's 280 invited guests.
Wow.
But on top of that, there would be at least 100 liveried servants. There would be musicians, and also a select number of ladies were invited to watch the gentlemen eat and feast.
Watch the gentlemen eat?
Afraid so.
Lucky ladies. Now, behind us I keep catching glimpses of light glimmering off silver, and I'm assuming this is the kind of thing they were eating off.
Yes, some of the silver we have behind us are very much day-to-day sort of eating wares, but we do have one very important piece of silver.
Come on then. Tell me what we've got here. Explain what these vessels would have been used for.
But essentially, these are serving dishes. Now, every piece, though, has got the city coat of arms on, right in the middle. This is part of the city promoting itself. This is marketing the city.
You're not going to mistake where you are you? The idea of someone just gradually taking food from it to uncover that York crest is quite fun, really.
But there's one particular piece of silverware used by Prince Albert which he wouldn't have been eating off.
This is the oldest silver chamber pot in the country.
It's incredible.
It's really quite beautiful, isn't it? Very simple design.
And York crests absolutely everywhere. And what does it say on it? 1672. Oh, my goodness.
It was made in York by a chap called Mamjid Best. And certainly this would be reserved for top table guests.
So when Albert was caught short halfway through dinner, it's this that he would have been using to relieve himself.
He probably nipped to the little anteroom and would have used this pot.
Well, perfectly logical.
And if that's not enough to put you off your dinner, onto the menu. The feast was prepared in the kitchens of Mansion House by a French celebrity chef, Alexis Soyer, arguably the most celebrated cook of the time.
Alexis Soyer is a bit of a hero to me. So hearing that he cooked here for this banquet for Prince Albert is really quite exciting. What was on the menu?
The first course had 32 different types of soup. Second course, 40 roasts. And most of the food has an exotic French-sounding name. So it's à la Lady Mayoress, à la Albert.
I mean, this space just doesn't seem big enough to supply a banquet for 280-odd people.
I've no idea how they did it.
I note that you sidled round my favourite dish from this particular banquet.
Well, to be honest, there is one particularly disgusting thing. They did create the 100 guinea dish, which essentially costs 100 guineas, but its main ingredient, or most startling ingredient, was turtles' heads with sort of kebab skewers shooting out of their mouths with sort of animal parts attached to it. And this was presented as the best creation Alexis Soyer would put together for this banquet.
I think the 100 guinea dish must have been spectacular. You've got the oysters from turkeys, you've got bits of woodcock with prawns leaping out of it.
It's really quite disgusting.
Shocking by modern standards, that dish cost the equivalent of over £10,000 today. With 10 times that spent on the event, York's Lord Mayor was clearly out to impress.
The banquet held here in 1850 must have been really magical. To see this room decked out with buntings and flags and with the tables just absolutely piled high with magnificent dishes, cooked by one of my culinary heroes, Alexis Soyer, I would have loved to have been here with Prince Albert.
That lavish affair would certainly have been something to behold.
Now, come on, what can you do that can possibly measure up?
Well, I don't know if it's worth £10,000, but I'm going to make a pulpatoon today, which is a multi-bird roast dish.
So that's one bird inside another bird inside another bird?
Exactly.
So what's inside what?
So we'll start off with the biggest bird. It'll be the turkey, then it will be a duck, and then it will be last chicken. But first of all, I'm going to show you how to batten out some of the meat, because you need to flatten out the meat so that you can roll it into a ballantine.
When you say batten out, you mean beat the devil out?
Yes.
Yep.
You want to cover with the cling film because you want to protect the meat, even though you're going to beat it up. You don't want the rolling pin sticking to the meat and ripping it.
No.
So what's best is kind of consistent, gentle taps as opposed to like really aggressive beating.
Do you think this is a bit of a self-indulgence? I mean, not you. I mean, you know, somebody who wants one bird stuffed inside another bird, a bit of a novelty rather than a bit of haute cuisine.
Well, I think it's interesting. I think the flavours are interesting together, but also it creates quite a large ballantine. So it's a good way to kind of prepare food for a group of people.
And it's a history, isn't it? You know, it's been that sort of wonderful banqueting dish way back into history at the Tudor court. They'd have dozens of songbirds, rather like that 100 guinea meal. You know, the biggest one would be, what, a swan or a peacock or something like that, right down to little quail right in the middle.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's your duck and your chicken.
You've almost doubled the kind of area of the flesh.
Yeah. So I've also actually flattened out some bacon here as well.
Now, what kind of bacon are you using here?
Smoky and streaky. Beautiful, delicious smoky flavour, and the fat to add a little bit more kind of fat and moisture to the three-bird roast, because this is turkey breast, duck breast and chicken breast, so they're all...
Not much fat.
Yeah, they're all quite lean, so the bacon kind of helps reinforce that, as will the force meat that we will be adding in between the layers as well.
So what is it, force meat?
It's a stuffing made of turkey, chicken and duck legs. You down the center. Okay, so we're ready to place our turkey. So I'm going to season the meat, and this is very important. A little bit of beautiful, freshly cracked pepper.
Now, you're going to put the force meat
Yes.
in between each layer?
That's right.
And you've also put some herbs in there, by the look of it.
Yes,
Have you, what
there's
sort of
some
thing have you got?
chopped parsley, a little bit of thyme as well. Okay, then we'll
Okay.
layer on our duck breast.
And the duck next?
I'm just going to season the duck meat as well.
Once more, yeah.
Once more, don't be shy.
There is a long tradition of these kind of bolted together dishes, you know, going all the way back to... There was a dish called... Oh, what was it? It was called the cock and thrice.
That's a catchy name.
Yeah. And the idea was that they got the head of a sucking pig and the kind of rear of a turkey, and they sewed them together. Stuffed them and sewed them together. What do you think all that was about?
Drama. That's just
Well,
drama.
yeah, drama. But I think, I've got a theory, because that was about the time, you know, just after Columbus and all that sort of thing, and people were venturing off into these wild places, the Americas and the South Seas and around Africa and so on. And the sailors were coming back with stories of monsters and, you know, here be dragons and all that kind of stuff. And I think, you know, people in the kitchen thought, oh, I can knock up a monster. I can knock up something strange and exotic.
And they did.
And they did.
A perky.
Yeah. Perky. A new dish is born. Well done.
Next, I'm going to put the chicken breasts in. You can see with each layer, it's slightly smaller and slightly smaller because you want to be able to roll the ballantine.
Yeah. My word, look at that. A little mountain of meat.
Okay, now
Striated
it's
mountain of meat.
time to roll. So I'm going to bring it over, over, pull it in tight. And I'm going to tuck this turkey just under a little bit and squeeze it over again.
Ooh, you've made a giant sausage.
Yes.
It's not going to get away now.
And nice and tight. And what you need to do is chill that for maybe overnight, if you can. And what that will do is that it will set all the meat up together. And when you go to transfer it into the tin foil, it'll just leave it as a piece. You'll butter the tin foil and place that on. So I've actually roasted one of these already, and you'll find it just over there.
I'll get it. Yep. Here we go.
Yeah, get rid of these. So I cooked this for about 2 hours at 160 degrees.
160, that's quite low.
Then I turned the oven up for another hour to about 180.
It's really heavy, really quite a lot of meat there.
There's a lot of meat here.
Oh, it's going to be brilliant. I just know it.
That looks amazing.
Oh, look at that.
So you're just going to have to wait a little bit longer before I get carving because I'm going to get the veg on. Quite simple. Since there's a lot going on with the meat, I thought I'd do some mashed potato and some blanched broccoli. I've got some nice chicken sauce here, so that's reduced down chicken stock with a little bit of thyme. So I'm just going to whisk in some butter.
I mean, it looks really impressive, doesn't it? I mean, it's not quite the 100 guinea dish, if I may say so, with its turtles' heads, its capons, its turkeys, its poulards, its fowls, its grouse, its pheasants, its partridges, its plovers, its woodcock, its quails, its snipe, its green pigeons, its larks, and all the rest.
Oh, my goodness.
You've got 3.
I'm so grateful that I just had 3. Okay, so I'll turn them down low, and I think it's time to carve.
I think it probably is. Oh, that does look good, doesn't it? Already.
Oh, wow, look
duck.
at that.
Yes.
So you can see obviously your bacon, your turkey, force meat, duck, more force meat, and your chicken.
You got the lot.
Our veg should be ready now.
Okay. Do you want this plate?
Yes, perfect. Okay. So we have our
creamy, very buttery.
Lovely, beautiful
green broccoli.
broccoli.
That's great.
Last but not least.
Oh, look at that.
Okay, tuck in, tuck in.
Absolutely. After you, Madam Chef.
Want a little bit of everything.
Yeah. And that's the trick, that's the challenge, to get a bit of everything in your mouth at the same time. Fortunately, I've got a big enough mouth to be able to do this. Oh, look at all that. You know, bird in the hand's worth 3 in the bush, or 3 in the mouth, I suppose.
There you go. Oh, I like that. Do you know, I didn't have very high expectations of this. I thought it was just a gimmick, really. But it's a dish suitable for any, you know, special occasion, isn't it, really? A kind of, how can I put it? A 50 guinea dish. A cut price 100 guinea dish, but nonetheless impressive for that.
A chef who's no stranger to a bit of royal pomp and circumstance is Rob Kennedy. He's based at the Royal Military Academy at Sandhurst and has cooked for the Queen and other members of the royal family several times. One occasion was a lavish dinner hosted by Prince Charles for no fewer than 7 Middle Eastern monarchs.
This extravagant supper was a celebration of Sandhurst's 200-year anniversary and its tradition of welcoming overseas cadets, including many Arabian royals over the years. With 7 foreign kings and the future King of England in attendance, it required a show-stopping menu.
For the Middle Eastern dinner at Old College, I cooked for the main course a lovely beef dish, and that's what we're going to be showing you now. Top royal dining.
When Prince Charles hosts such grand meals, only the finest British ingredients are used. Rob starts with the mini braised beef pudding. He begins by caramelising seasonal root vegetables in a hot pan with garlic, thyme and star anise.
So we're going to keep the same pan now, and we've got this beautiful piece of cheek, and all of this fat here is going to become gelatinous and sticky and yummy. So we pop that into our pan and just let that colour and caramelise.
Once the beef is lightly browned, Rob pops the veg back into the frying pan with a teaspoon of tomato puree and a pint of beef stock.
You can see there, it's a lovely, nice jelly of beef stock.
He brings it to the boil before transferring the whole lot into a covered saucepan.
And then in it goes.
And braising it for 6.5 hours at 150 degrees Celsius. When the slow cooking is complete, the beef will be tender and melting.
Absolutely yummy.
It's then removed from the liquid with some of the veg and left to cool.
And if a couple of bits of onion or thyme are in there, it doesn't matter. Just make sure it's not the star anise. That'll kind of be a little bit crunchy.
The remaining gravy is strained and reserved for service. Rob then takes flour, suet, water and a little salt and whips up a rich pastry.
When I had this Middle Eastern dinner, the closest I'd probably got to that many kings was 4 in a pack of cards. So, you know, a real achievement, and something I believe will never, ever be done, definitely in my culinary career, or probably done, you know, in the history of Sandhurst again. So, what an honour. What an absolute honour.
Rob rolls out small discs of pastry and adds the braised beef cheek. He then moulds them into dumplings.
We're going to wrap that in cling film. So that goes in there. It comes up, and we put its raincoat on. Give it a nice twist. This way, you get to make them perfectly round. And then you get your little cling film tie, and then you just go round. And then at the end of it, you get the two together and simply tie a knot. Take the scissors and cut off. And that there is your beautiful braised beef pudding ready to steam for 50 minutes. Once the steam is nice and hot and the water's boiling, pop it in there and that will then cook.
Rob has already marinated a fillet of steak in star anise, thyme and garlic for 12 hours. He lightly seals the steak in a hot pan with herbs and butter.
Smells delicious.
Before roasting it at 180 degrees for 8 minutes.
During the meal, I guess, no one really puts their hands up and says, thanks very much, it's great. However, on most of the events, well, in fact, let me be modest, on all of the events we've done, we've always had clean plates, so we're doing something right. It'd be nice to have a letter, though. you know, or an MBE.
Rob plates up the steak with a garnish of baby root vegetables, creamed potato and sautéed cabbage. All that's left is the mini beef pudding.
And that little suet dumpling pudding can just sit in there, very proud, very precise.
The dish is completed by adding the braised gravy, baby watercress and a dusting of dehydrated horseradish.
This dish was designed to be special but be British and celebrate Sandhurst and 200 years, but more importantly, show off to our visiting guests being the kings of what we can produce. To me, perfect recipe, fit for a king.
I would have thought catering for so many heads of state would be pretty daunting, wouldn't you, Anna? I mean, imagine them all in your restaurant. Imagine them being able to afford it. What are you doing now?
I'm going to make Black Forest Gateau.
Ah, now this is in honour of Queen Victoria, isn't it? Because she loved chocolate and she loved cherries, and her mother was German, and of course her father was from the British royal family, originally German, so she loved everything German: cherries, chocolate, Black Forest Gateau. Come on, what do you do first?
Okay, so the first thing I'm going to make is the last thing we'll be putting on the cake, which is the cherry topping. So we have some fresh cherries that have been stoned.
They look fabulous.
I'm just going to mix a little bit of water in with corn flour.
It's the cherry brandy, isn't it? That's the key thing.
The kirsch.
Where is the cherry brandy?
Well, it's in here. It's got some cherries soaking in it.
It's called, actually, I think in German, the Schwarzwälder Kirschwasser, which means Black Forest cherry brandy, I suppose.
Sound like a native.
Yeah, well, I am. My family originally came from the Black Forest long ago.
Oh, I love it. Okay, so I've just added a spoonful of cherry compote in here as well.
Right.
And I'm just going to add them to the cherries and just give it a stir.
But the cherries, that was Queen Victoria's all-time favourite, I think.
Oh,
she
really?
had cherries, yeah. She didn't have Black Forest Gateau, but she had cherries with rice pudding at her Golden Jubilee dinner in Windsor in 1887. OK, now what?
Right, so we're going to make a sabayon, which is essentially egg yolk and sugar whisked into a beautiful, creamy, light foam.
This is rich, isn't it?
This is rich.
Imagine doing that by hand. I mean, what a lot of beating that would have taken.
Yeah. And this is for one cake. And, you know, the truth is, you know, they would never have been making one cake.
No.
OK, so this is good. Next, our sugar goes in the bowl. We're going to whisk up our egg whites.
Right.
And I'm going to give my cherries a little check. Oh, beautiful. So I'm going to take these out, pop them into a bowl, so that they'll be ready for us at the end. Lovely.
I think if you weren't looking, Anna, I might be round there trying those.
So I'm going to fold in my cocoa and my salt while we're waiting for this to whisk. And then you just want to really delicately fold.
That looks gloopy and wonderful, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be really lovely when we get the egg whites in there as well.
Yeah.
OK, this looks like it's done now.
Is this the sort of thing you want, the peaks and all that stuff?
That's it, yeah. So I'm being really careful with folding in my egg whites.
Oh, my word, look at that.
OK, so I think we're ready for this to go in the tin.
OK.
Lovely. Oh, my God, this is so good.
Yeah, look at that.
This is going to be cooked in the oven at 180 degrees for at least a half an hour.
OK. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael.
180, half an hour.
Next, we're going to whip our cream. And icing sugar and vanilla.
The vanilla gives it a wonderful flavour, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. So you just cut your vanilla pod in half.
Right.
Just want to scrape out the seeds. Hopefully this won't go everywhere.
There's so much richness in this gateau.
I'm just going to strain the kirsch off the cherries.
Right.
Okay?
Yep.
Fold that in. It's important that your sponge is really cool when you go to make it, because if you put cream on a warm sponge, it's just going to melt. So I have a sponge that I made earlier here.
Nice and cool.
Nice and cool. I'm just going to start off with my base layer. Start off with a little bit of the jam that we put inside our cherries.
Spread it out.
Spread that around. Now our beautiful, gorgeous cream.
What would my doctor say about this? Now, how thick do you make these layers?
To be honest, I
suppose
really
it's
believe
personal taste,
it
isn't it?
should be as big as possible because, you know.
Well, it's not an understated pudding, is it?
No,
I mean,
and
this is all about display and kind of conspicuous consumption. And the last one?
a last layer, which I'm going to soak with kirsch. Okay, and now for the finishing touches. And our cake stand.
Oh, yeah, it's got to have a cake
Yes.
stand.
Okay, and then I just have a little bit more whipped cream to go around the
Oh,
outside.
yeah. And we're really short of cream for this dish. It's a kind of heart attack on a cake stand, isn't it?
Heart attack of excitement. Okay, and I think I might need your help with this one, Michael.
Okay.
So...
To lift it?
Yes. You have to lift this one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I love it. There we go. And now we're just going to put these around the side like this.
Making it a kind of stockade.
Yeah.
I'm doing it incredibly carefully.
You're doing a great job, actually.
I am. I think I'm a natural. It'd be a shame to eat this, wouldn't it?
Absolutely not. Be shame not to eat it. Okay, and now we're going to top it with our cherries.
And the smell.
Last one.
Okay. Whoa, look at that. The Schwarzwälder Kirschwasser cake.
And Black Forest Gateau to you and me.
Let's dig in.
So...
Look at that. Go on, after you.
Okay. That's so good. It's exactly what you want a Black Forest to taste like.
It's really light, though, isn't it? But it's rich. The cherries give it that wonderful juiciness as well. Oh, Victoria, you've got it right. That was wonderful. Join us next time for more royal recipes.